part 3 of the bad to the bone.
I like that authority you got going on.
You like that authority? Bad to the bone. What you have to look forward to in this video, we're going to be doing the final assembly on the engine. So we're going to be showing the really trick intake. We're going to be showing the nice carburetor that we have. We'll be showing the trick distributor, MSD distributor that we have for this thing.
Everything's trick.
So without further ado, let's check out the valve train first with the push rods, the rockers, everything all in one pile. But before we do that, I want to say thank you guys very much. We would like to thank you guys for 5,000 subscribers. Clip in the yay! Anything you would like to say?
Thank you very much.
All right, let's get into it.
Fair enough. So we're back here again. We're gonna finish up the good old Dart small block here. So these are all the top end, the valve train stuff that we're gonna be installing. We got some Morel roller lifters. Things are like jewelry, man. You should be like hanging them from a necklace or something. So we got our solid roller lifters. We have Lenati stud girdles that we're gonna be using. We got our new Manly push rods, and they're 8-inch, 200,000 long, 80 wall thick, one piece. We got a set of 7/16 full side screw and studs. These are used out of the original heads that I purchased. So so half of them go into the intake port. So on the last cylinder head, somebody had them in there and they kind of ported them, I guess, in there, you could say. So they kind of radiused them because they do protrude into the intake port. So a couple of them I kind of shortened up a little bit just so they won't affect air flow.
Air running through the intake. Since when does air run?
Got some guide plates. We got the longer 7/16 posi locks to go with the stud girdle. And then we have a set of Crower full roller stainless steel rockers. These are the 1.6 ratio. We showed these before. So this is our whole valve train. This is what we're gonna be installing now. So we're gonna adjust the valves, line the push rods, guide plates, and get the girdles and everything on it and get this valve train finished up. The reds were a little on the longer side for these heads, which is a little interesting because all these studs on the head side is pretty much the same length, but they were bottoming out on the exhaust ports. See, the intakes go into the runner, so they have a little more, it's radius, but it still has a little more room. But the exhaust side, they were bottoming out in the head. So we had to use a bottoming tap, and we tapped each exhaust hole to try to get a little deeper, and we're still having a problem. It was still a little tight when we had the guide plates on here. We go to tighten it down, it would still be a little loose. It wasn't really snugging. So we just did every one of them, and we took probably a couple 100,000, pretty much a thread thickness off of the bottom of the bolt. We chucked up in the lathe, so we didn't have to worry about bottoming out in the head and worry about, you know, cramming it in there, and then you can crack the cylinder head or having another problem, or it's not actually tightened down the guide plate. On the guide plates here, you want to check it, but it's kind of a compromise. In order to get your push rod not to hit the intake, you're going to lose a little bit of your centering on your valve. So it possibly that the rocker is going to kick over a little bit, and it's not necessarily going to be the full roller on top of the valve, but that's a better outcome than having your push rod rammed up against your cylinder head and galling the whole time, you know. If it's tight and you can't get any oil in there, it's going to grab that aluminum and it's just going to keep building it up and building it up, and it's going to get to the point where you're going to have serious problems. You know, you can bend the push rod or to grab it. This whole rocker geometry on a stud style rocker setup is going to be a compromise to get it to so everybody's happy for the most part. And another reason you want to check it after you get the rockers back on it, because if you check your guide plate push rods without the rocker on it, your push rod is down. It's not where it's going to be. So you can see where this is at rest right here. It's closer to the stud, but when we put the rocker on it, then it's going to bring it up to the pivot point in the rocker, so it's in a different spot. So it may be fine here when you check it. You pull the lifter up, like, oh yeah, everything's good, but we put the rocker on it, it's gonna be a different position. So we want to check it, get some movement in here, that it's happy with the rocker on it. So now I got the rockers laid out the way, pretty much the best I can get them. You know, like I said, there's gonna be a compromise between the guide plates and hitting the intake and not hitting, and the angle to the valve. So I got all these here adjusted. So now I'm gonna adjust this side. It's kind of nice on the dart block here because it's kind of like a big block Chevy that the whole center of the camshaft is open. So you can see where the cam is because you want to adjust them on the bottom side of the lobe, you know, or you can go off the dampener, turn it over, and then adjust, you know, the firing order. But I'm just gonna go off of looking in the valley here because the intake's off of it. This camshaft calls for 20 thousandths on the intake and 22 thousandths on the exhaust on the clearance. I'm just gonna set them up right now as a baseline at all 18. I'm sure when I get it on the dyno and we get it running, we're gonna check them again anyways, and then we'll adjust them there. But you can see I don't have the stud girdles on here. After putting them on, it kind of changes the measurements a little bit, the clearances, because it, you know, kind of torques on the studs because it holds everything together, so it'll change it a little bit. So they need to be checked after the girdles and everything are all completely on it. Setting it up just to get it so we can fire it and get it temperature in it, because it's supposed to be adjusted warm. See the cam lobe, this is the cylinder right here. See, it's just got done going over full lift. Now we're going down. We get to the bottom side of the lobe. So right there is all the way at the bottom of the cam lobe. It's all the way closed. So I'll go ahead and adjust this one. They're all snug right now because I ran them down by hand when I put them on. So just like a hydraulic cam, they got 0 lash in them, which doesn't work out when you have a solid roller. So it has to have clearance in here before we can even start it. And now that I got all my rockers adjusted, just the baseline setup, I'm gonna put the girdles on it.
You think the lifters look like jewelry? Look at this.
This is an old hand-me-down slow Nova driver. Got the pan here, we're gonna put it on here. It's pretty tight fit around the pickup here. The guy we got it from had to do some fitting, fine fitting, to get it to fit on his last ride. We got the engine flipped back over after getting the oil pan on it. We put the valve covers on it. We're more likely going to change these things down the road, but we're going to use them for now. We got the intake gasket set up on here. We got them silicone to the cylinder heads to get them held where we want them to be. They're still a little tacky, so we don't want to move them yet. So we're going to go ahead and prime it with the intake off. We got our brake-in oil in here. We got our racing top secret go to the moon in reverse brake-in oil. This guy, I think $80 a quart he charged me probably.
That's how I make my fortunes.
Guaranteed for 20 more horsepower. So this thing's gonna be like 800 horse by the time we're done now.
Yeah, you're telling me.
And every 5.
Yeah.
Put a couple stickers on it. So we're gonna prime it. We're gonna hook up our 1950 drill motor.
We're gonna hook up a 1950 drill motor.
Yeah, the nice polished bow tie intake. Craig got done port matching it, getting the runners all straightened out. Looks really good. Did a little blending inside here in the plenum. Can't stop on this amazingness. You gotta finish it off all the way. Craig's double checking the valve lash. He's going through and resetting it. He's using the method of, what is it?
Exhaust valve opening, intake valve closing method. So when the exhaust valve just starts to open, we adjust the intake. And then if you're on, say, on the same cylinder, you run it through with exhaust opens, closes, intake opens, and the intake is about halfway to 3/4 of the way closed, and then you go and adjust the exhaust. It's a little difficult the first couple times, but once you get in a rhythm, it goes pretty quickly.
So you don't do it front to back. So you gotta keep track of where you're at.
Right.
Because you go front, middle, you know.
What I do a lot of times, I'll keep it, if I'm using like a shaft rocker system, I use a Sharpie, and then when I do it, I'll just put a little mark on the rocker as I go down the line, so that way you don't get,
you know where you're at.
that way you don't get lost.
So this is a carburetor that we're running on this thing. I think it flowed at 819 CFM. It's a HP Holly. It's got 4-corner idle air fuel, dual metering block, obviously. Front and rear idle speed, competition carburation. Built it. See how it works out on the dyno. So we got the carburetor put on it, the valve cover's back on it, we get it sealed up, we got the spark plugs in it. The last thing we're gonna do right now in this video is gonna put a distributor in it.
Now let me see that thing.
This is the last
That thing is gleaming.
We got our MSD Pro billet. We had to change it to a bronze distributor gear because of our mechanical cam. To be technically correct, it's a billet core. It's a billet core cam, so we got to run steel billet core. So
Backseat driver.
we gotta run the we gotta run the bronze gear. So we're gonna throw a distributor here. We got it spun around. We got the timing in it, roughly what we want to have. So we line the rotor up. In theory, is where we're gonna put the cap, #1 cylinder. Yada yada yada.
Yada yada yada.
Yada yada yada. So I want to have #1 over here somewhere. So you want to spin it? Let me do one more too.
We're fighting compression now.
Come on. There it is.
There it is.
So we had the pan off of it, and he likes to check like a rear end, the gear mesh. So the distributor gear to the camshaft gear. And what did you like about it?
So basically, we're measuring the height of where the distributor gear is on the back of the camshaft, in conjunction where the distributor gear goes down and meets that. Depending on where the height of the distributor is, where those two gears, it affects the lash and the basically like a ring and pinion way, where the wear pattern is. So I did not like where it was, so we went and machined the bottom side of the distributor where it sits on the manifold, and we actually lowered that down to get a better contact pattern on the distributor. And we also were measuring the oil pump drive shaft end play, and so we were making sure that we weren't bottoming out on the end play there. We actually changed one of the oil pump drive shafts because it was a little bit loose.
So you can correct this by getting the distributor with the slip collar on it. Then you can adjust the distributor.
Yeah, that's the easy way to do it.
That's
So we were basically, I had to cut 60 thousandths off of the underside of the distributor.
So now this combination is married to this unit. So if you took this out and put in another engine, in theory, it could be.
You'd have to check it.
You
You'd have to
double check
verify
it. It could be a little different. So just another little fine adjustment to make everything run to its peak.
Tweaker Tips by Craig.
Is that your new channel?
No. Probably a big seller.
So this has no vacuum advance on the distributor. We're mechanical advance only.
MSC distributors are shipped with a very slow curve, which is a very heavy spring. And then they give you a baggie with a variety of curve options. And then on the box, it actually tells you at what RPM the centrifugal advance curve comes into full advance. So as you can see, it's got the really with like a clear natural metal heavy spring. We're going to take those guys off, and we're going to study the box and decide which curve we want, meaning what RPM do we want the full centrifugal advance in. As you can see, these guys, as the distributor spins with the rotor there, these fly weights open up, and they fight the resistance of the coil spring, not a coil spring, with this retainer spring here. So as you put lighter springs, it allows these to advance faster and get the full advance of the engine in. So right now we have a base timing set at like 15 degrees base, and we're going to probably shoot for about 34 degrees total. So we can also adjust under here. There's a cam, there's a little eccentric that limits how far The advance will advance also. So that's something we can adjust on the dyno if we're having too much or not enough total timing with the base that we're trying to run. I'm kind of a trained professional. I just throw these springs away.
Oh, we'll just drop down that guy's engine, no big deal.
Yeah, thanks, Craig.
How's that go again?
You better watch that.
Wabot. That's when you didn't know anything and you had like 7-to-1 compression with a giant camshaft in there and it.
So what do you guys think, huh? What do you two think of the build? How did it turn out?
This thing's trick. This is a bad little conventional small block.
I think this thing's gonna deliver the goods.
Yeah, I think
that's
the
gonna be
old 67 Dave's gonna need to put some plastic on the seat. He's gonna have an accident driving the car.
The dyno will tell.
Yes, we'll know.
No lies here. We don't sell smoke.
No.
We go to the dyno and make sure it does what
We're
it's
with
supposed
the
to do.
proof in the pudding. We're gonna eat all the pudding.
I hope you're hungry.
Until I'm starving.
So if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button down below. You want to see how this thing does on the dyno, man. You hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed the whole 3 video series of building this engine.
We want to thank the man, the myth, the legend for letting us use his engine room here.
Thanks for coming up. It's been a fun few days.
It's been fun.
Been a long few days
A
too.
long few days.
Most of the stuff the dyno's going to supply, they have their own water pump they use.
Flywheel
slash
ignition box and stuff
Yeah, they
like
got their own
that,
box, so we just need some wires. We already got the spark plugs, but we already added 20 horse because we got the 2
That's
stickers on it.
Yeah,
To
you
the
saw
side.
the race
Yeah.
engine system stickers.
So this thing's like 800 horsepower now.
We're getting there.
Yeah, you got the +5 from all the pistons, so that's 40 total. So
Yeah, I mean this is really adding up. This is burning up the calculator.
you guys stay tuned to the next one.
See ya.